Is Madame Le Pen back?
Oh, she definitely is back, and her party is back. To be honest, Macron was flabbergasted by his defeat, and my spies during the national rally evening on Sunday night they were flabbergasted by their victory. They thought they would do better. They didn't expect to have 89 MPs in the House, where the Républicain, Sarkozy's old party, only gets 63. So that was really a big shock. And if you look at the left-wing alliance, Jean-Luc Mélenchon's own France Unbowed only have 73 MPs. So the first single party of opposition, not in alliance, is actually the National Rally in France. That is a real upset for someone who people said would never get to even close to power.
Yeah, and that would make, in Westminster terms, that would make Madame Le Pen leader of Her Majesty's loyal opposition. It doesn't really work that way in France. But does it mean that Monsieur Macron is obliged to take her more seriously than he would have had things gone well for him?
Well, it's very interesting. She did not win the presidential election, as you know. Her party won the parliamentary elections. There now have been signals by members of the government that if they got on some bills that they want to introduce the support of the National Rally, they would not oppose it. This is huge because it means that the ring fencing around the National Rally in France, which people call the Front Républicain, the Republican Front, never admit the fascists in because that's the way they see them. Yeah. And it means that on some things, for instance, the Justice Minister, Éric Dupond-Moretti, said, if we have a bill, and the bill is a bill to reform justice, and some of the provisions are provisions that they would push anyway, why not accept their votes? This has created an outcry, but I think it's not the sort of thing that you say without checking it with the president, who's also your boss, and therefore I think that Macron is ready to do absolutely anything as long as he remains the president and he's not completely incapacitated by a house leagued against him.
But there has been a sea change, as you said, in that the fascists have now been admitted within the precincts of respectable parties. Is that actually a big thing? I mean, are people reeling from it?
I think they haven't been admitted yet. I think they're on the threshold. As it is, you have a number of people who are now sort of saying this is impossible, we can't say this, it's not acceptable. I mean, you are used to all what people say. The other thing is that Marine Le Pen herself, coming out to the Élysée today, said if there are reasonable alliance, no, not alliance, but if we can find margins for which we can compromise and they are reasonable and acceptable to us, why not? And what she wants to show is that not, having been inside the circles of power, she's as deserving of being in the circles of power than many of the other people who say that they are ready to govern. It's very interesting. She looks much more reasonable than she was even at the time of the last election, but then she only won 8 MPs and now she's got 89.
Well, during the run-up to the presidential election, some hardcore fellows like me thought she'd rather overdone it in her plan to detoxify her father's brand and her father's party, as it were. But if it didn't pay off at the presidential level, it seems to have paid off at the parliamentary level. Do you think this keeps her in play as a potential French president?
I would say the detoxification has worked. The fact that when the Ukraine war started, she kept stum, even though she got loans from Russian banks because French banks would not give her loans for her campaign, whereas Éric Zemmour sort of, gave a fairly pro-Putinist line, and also because Éric Zemmour looked more radical than she did. And the result is that she has benefited from this because he moved the Overton window in terms of the debate rightwards, but he also moved it in a way that she looked more reasonable. And second, when you look at the choice that was given the French, first in the presidential election and now in most of the competitions in the second round, in the runoff last Sunday, you had, the choice was basically either the Mélenchoniste candidate or the presidential candidate or the National Rally candidate. You have people from the hard left who voted for the National Rally rather than vote for Macron, and you have people on the right who voted for NUPES, the populist left-wing party, rather than vote for Macron. What happened on Sunday was a vote of no confidence on Macron himself.
As I understand Monsieur Zemmour's position, though, his theory was that he was unlike when he entered. He didn't expect to win the election, but he thought he'd do well enough to cause a realignment on the right that would get rid of all these sissy boy Républicains and Madame Le Pen repositioning the party as a cat lovers party, and he'd reunify the right on his terms as something harder and butcher. That hasn't really happened, has it?
No, but that's not what he was trying to do. What he was trying to do, and he's the one who always talked about, he said the right will only succeed if they're united. He said, and quite rightly so, that there were 1/3 of the Républicain Party with whom, first of all, because he knew all these people, he'd been a very good political reporter for 30 years. He said, you know, there's 1/3 of these people who belong with us, and we welcome the alliances. And he said, I welcome an alliance with Marine Le Pen because her voters have been cheated out of representation for so many decades. And it didn't work this time. And she was also, the evening he lost, he extended a hand and said, look, I'm not going to bargain. I'm going to say, to my voters, even though I disagree on some things with her, vote for Marine Le Pen. I will vote for Marine Le Pen. And he expected that there would be some sort of acceptance. She was pretty vindictive, and her people gave not a single seat, so that he was contested in the 7th constituency where he ran for MP, and the Rassemblement National came a few points before him. But if there had been only one candidate there, just as if there had been only one candidate somewhere else, he would have had a few MPs, not many. He would have been a junior member of a coalition. It's not happening now. I'm not ruling out the fact that even though you now get people on the right who look at this government and say, we're going to vote things ad hoc, and we're going to vote with a national rally ad hoc. I think there's a question of breaking the walls, and he's helped to do that. What's interesting is that they haven't got a single MP. He wasn't elected. Was not in the second round of the presidential election. They are having what the French call une université d'été. They're having a sort of, they're calling all their sympathizers and militants for a study group in September. In the southeast of France, which is not the best time to be in the southeast of France. These people are working in politics.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.